Expecting live pictures to come from Colombo in Sri Lanka, where right after concluding his Bangkok visit on the sidelines of the BIMSTEC summit, the Prime Minister currently is in Sri Lanka as he is embarked on this 3-day state visit to the island nation. Remember, this is his first visit to the country after Sri Lanka plunged into financial crisis, when India extended financial assistance worth over $4.5 billion. Prime Minister Modi is also the first foreign leader to be hosted by the incumbent president, Dissanayake. As when it comes to today's program and engagements are also concerned, it will be important as far as the outreach program is also concerned of India when it comes to neighborhood first policy. And here is Prime Minister's 3-day visit that has begun today. Shortly, we'll be getting the live pictures of his today's engagements.
Right now, we are standing at the Indian Peacekeeping Force Memorial in Colombo in Sri Lanka. And tomorrow, after the agreements that are going to be signed and the deals that are going to be sealed, he will be visiting this memorial to pay honors, to pay his respects and homage to the lives lost when the Indian Peacekeeping Force was sent to Sri Lanka to ensure that, the civil war that was ongoing back in the 80s between the civil militants and the military groups in Sri Lanka came to a peace. And in fact, majorly the Indian Peacekeeping Force was sent to Sri Lanka by India to ensure that the militants are being disarmed and that there is peace being restored in the country of Sri Lanka. Though one cannot term that the IPKF was extremely successful, they can also speak about how unfortunately over thousands of lives were lost during this effort that was taken by India to ensure that there is peace being restored in Sri Lanka. Behind me are the names that have been etched in this monument about the lives that have been lost during the efforts that were taken by India with sending the Indian Peacekeeping Force to Sri Lanka. But in fact, what is also very important to see is that there has been multiple efforts by the country India to ensure that its neighbor country Sri Lanka, and it's more like a brother country Sri Lanka, has always been in the goodwill of how to ensure peace in the country of Sri Lanka.
So, rousing reception that the Prime Minister received upon his arrival there in Sri Lanka, and what has now been said of his visit, which is certainly significant as India is expected to ink about 7 pacts with Sri Lanka. And this could include an agreement on defense cooperation, which could only further boost India's relations with the island nation when it comes to defense. As Times Now has been reporting from Colombo, where Vashni has been taking us through what's expected as part of the Prime Minister's visit. Let's take a look exactly why it matters as far as when it comes to the Prime Minister's 3-day state visit to Sri Lanka is concerned. He is the first foreign leader to be hosted by the incumbent Sri Lankan president, Dissanayake. Also the first visit after Sri Lanka plunged into financial crisis, if we remember what happened back in 2022. Now, what is expected that 7 pacts at least would be signed with Sri Lanka. These are the MOUs which are now said that the agreements would vary from defense cooperation, that is also expected, and also could signal when it comes to the upward trajectory in India-Sri Lanka ties as well. So let's get connected with Vashni, who is joining us from Colombo, and also Srinjoy is also with us right now. Good morning to both of you. Vashni, in a short while we're expecting live pictures to come in of the Prime Minister. What and how is his today's day looking like? If you can tell us about today's engagements.
Well, yes, we are at the Independence Square in Colombo in Sri Lanka, and this is where the Prime Minister is about to receive a government welcome, a ceremonial welcome, a grand welcome. Like you can see right behind me, the Sri Lankan military is lined up to receive the Prime Minister. Last night at around 9:30 p.m., he arrived in Colombo and he met a lot of Indian diaspora people, and they all greeted him with a warm welcome. And today morning, the Sri Lankan government is conducting this ceremonial welcome as an official government honor to the Prime Minister of India. And after this, he will be heading straight to the presidential secretariat, where he will be holding talks with the Sri Lankan President Anurakkumara Dissanayake. And this talks will be followed by, the agreement signing, where the delegation delegations will also be present. And this agreement signing today, almost nearly 10 agreements are likely to be signed. It is all about the bilateral trade, the defense agreement that everybody is talking about, and also agreements about power, energy, digital, digitalization. There are so many infrastructure. There are so many things that the Sri Lankan government and the people are looking forward to get aid and support from India. And the Prime Minister is here to discuss on all of these issues and see what kind of projects or what kind of schemes that can be taken forward for the benefit of both India and Sri Lanka, and to strengthen its relationship. While everybody is talking about how China is also a big threat, while as they are also having a lot of plans and ideas to build their relationship with Sri Lanka. What we are witnessing is India is the first country that has always been
Yes.
lending its support
So
to
of
Sri
late
Lanka.
we'll speak about as far as India's neighborhood first policy is also concerned. As Vashni is getting us the live pictures shortly, we will be expecting the pictures to come in also of the Prime Minister, as preparations in the background are in full swing at Colombo's Independence Square, where the Prime Minister is expected to receive the Guard of Honor, followed by formal talks with the Sri Lankan President. Now, Srinjoy, as far as Prime Minister's visit is also concerned, of late, as far as the importance that has now been given to the neighbors, whether be it the crisis-ridden and devastated by earthquake Myanmar is concerned, the tensions that have been taking place in Bangladesh with Muhammad Yunus' visit and talks are also concerned, and now with the current visit to Sri Lanka. What does it imply?
Well, first of all, the Sri Lankans realize that India has always been there whenever they needed any help. The best example is probably the last economic crisis that Sri Lankan faced. This was as a result, partly, of the Sri Lankan government's decision to not use fertilizers and have a sort of green policy vis-a-vis agriculture. As a result, because it was done too quickly, well-intentioned, but too quickly, agricultural output, cash crop output like tea plummeted. There was no foreign exchange. The economic crisis was severe. That was the time when one country stood by Sri Lanka, and that was India. And this is something Sri Lanka has not forgotten. So that is something that they are very grateful about. As far as India is concerned, yes, we heard about China just now. There have been inroads made by China in Sri Lanka in some ways. But India is going to make this very clear to Sri Lanka, as India has in the past, that look here, if you're going to get Chinese warships into your ports, then this is a bit of a security concern for India, especially if it's submarines. That hasn't happened in at least a year. But this is a point that India will quietly tell Colombo that, look, a Chinese warship in Sri Lankan port is always going to be a bit of a concern for India, and please keep things normal for us. That's the one point that will come across. As far as economic issues are concerned, logistical issues are concerned, roads, highways, all of that, these are issues that India and Sri Lanka want to work on. Of course, there are minor irritants like fishermen being arrested and all that. But those are issues, while problematic temporarily, they are considered manageable. So as a result, the relationship between the two countries are on a good or on very even keel. And hopefully there will be further movement this time.
So as far as Prime Minister's visit is also coming at a time when Sri Lanka is showing signs of recovery from the massive economic crisis. And India, remember, was one of the first countries that extended a financial aid of more than $4 billion during the crisis. Vashni has also been speaking to the people there. A warm welcome and a rousing reception that the Prime Minister received upon his arrival, and how the people are now looking forward to his visit. This is going to be a 3-day visit that we are looking at, and how people have been reacting to this visit. Let's listen in.
So you're going to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. So how do you feel
Really excited. I've been seeing him only on TV and reading the papers as well. What progress he has been doing for India as well as other nations in the Asian region.